This week, shocking allegations were released against Tim Walz. We're going to cover all the details this week on Wolves in Finance. I want to warn you that these allegations are graphic. If you have little kids in the room, I would put on headphones so that they do not hear this video. The allegations against Tim Walz are that he is a pedophile and that he raped a 14-year-old boy. I think we need to be cautious here. Before you make a claim that is so horrible about somebody, you need credible evidence before you ruin somebody's life. It is possible that someone can simply make up fake allegations against someone. With wealthy and successful men especially, anyone can make up a lie about you. A good example of this is the allegations against Donald Trump by E. Jean Carroll. Most people recognize that this is a crazy person that made up a fake story that Donald Trump raped her in a Bergdorf Goodman dressing room. She had no evidence, and her story kept changing. In the trial, the jury didn't even believe her and gave the verdict that Donald Trump did not rape E. Jean Carroll. So this is an example where Trump did not even know this person, and they made up this fake story about him. So I think it's important for these new allegations against Tim Walz that we approach the story by giving him the benefit of the doubt. I know that many of you do not like Tim Walz, but let us keep in mind that these allegations could be made up. So let's go through what we know. Tim Walz and his wife Gwen Walz used to be high school teachers at Alliance High School. Tim Walz received a DUI for drunk driving in 1995. 6 months later, the school board voted to give him a professional leave request in March of 1996. In July of 1996, the school board unanimously voted to accept the resignations of both Tim Walz and his wife Gwen. Around this same time, there were rumors that Tim Walz was acting inappropriately towards students. Tim Walz became a faculty advisor for the Gay Straight Alliance Club at the high school. There has been a lot of criticism surrounding these types of clubs in school. You have grown adults talking to children about gay sex, often without their parents knowing about it. A lot of people would call that grooming. Here is Tim Walz talking about the group.
I had students come to me who were concerned that there was an uptick in some bullying towards our gay and lesbian students. And this is in the mid-90s. They asked if I would be interested in helping start a gay straight alliance group. My answer was absolutely. And I recognized my responsibility in that. You have an older, white, straight, married male football coach who's deeply concerned that these students are treated fairly and that there's no bullying. And the idea that my players would be interested in coming to that and learn and to speak, to create a culture in a school that was welcoming, open, and understanding was something Gwen and I always strove for.
It sounds a lot like grooming to me. It gets more suspicious when Tim Walz took one of the students to an Indigo Girls concert. Just to be clear, we have not even got to the allegations yet. These are all things we know to be true. Tim Walz does not dispute any of this. Tim Walz did lead this gay club at school. He did take this student to an Indigo Girls concert, and shortly after, he did resign from his job. Now, Tim Walz says that all these things are perfectly innocent, but they seem pretty strange to me. For the life of me, I cannot figure out any explanation why a teacher would take a student to a concert, unless something shady was going on. Why would he do that? Imagine you're in high school and your teacher comes up to you and asks, "Hey, do you want to go to a concert with me?" That's so creepy. The timing of the resignations is also suspicious. I don't know if you know this, but it is very hard to fire a teacher. They have union protection. Now, Tim Walz was not fired, he resigned, but resignations are what happens when a teacher is really getting fired. We know Tim Walz was placed on leave, which is when an investigation would have started. If an investigation turned up evidence against him, he would have been forced to resign to avoid the publicity of being fired. This is how pedophiles get moved from school district to school district without anybody knowing. It is also not normal for a resignation to be voted on by the board. Teachers resign all the time. Usually what happens is if it's at the end of the school year and you want to leave, you put in your notice, and that's it. If you follow the normal union process, a school board usually doesn't have to vote on it. For the board to vote, that suggests that the resignation was the result of an investigation into conduct. It's also curious that both Tim Walz and his wife resigned at the same time. Why would both of them leave, potentially as the result of an investigation? Then there are the trips to China. Tim Walz would organize the trips for the students. It's unclear exactly how many trips there were, but it seems to be somewhere around 15 trips to China. You should note that the age of consent in China is only 14 years old. Is this why Tim Walz took so many trips there? There is this photo of some of the students on the China trip. You can see at the top of the photo the hairy leg of an adult. Is this Tim Walz? If it is, I would like someone to explain to me what is happening here. Was Tim Walz sleeping in the same room as all the students? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's how school trips are supposed to work. Isn't it normal for the adult chaperones to sleep in one room and the students to sleep in another room? Why would Tim Walz sleep in the same room as the students? That seems strange to me. Here is Tim Walz sharing headphones with a female student. This also seems strange to me. Why wouldn't he get his own headphones? Do you notice how this female student is backing away from Tim Walz? She seems nervous to me. Am I the only person who thinks this looks strange? Why is Tim Walz acting so creepy here? Here's an article from Politico about one of Tim Walz's China trips. It talks about the students getting pampering at a group foot massage Walz booked for everyone. Excuse me? Why is Tim Walz setting up creepy foot massages for the students? Is this part of the educational content for the trip? I'm sorry, but foot massages should not be part of any student's high school education. But the strangest thing about the China trips came from an article in the Star Tribune. It talks about Tim Walz and his wife. They spent their honeymoon in China on a trip they organized for dozens of students. There was an odd number of students, so the couple didn't even sleep in the same room. I just cannot comprehend what is going on here. Tim and Gwen get married, and for their honeymoon, they go to China on a student trip, and they don't share a hotel room. These trips lasted 2 weeks. I have never heard of this before. A couple gets married, and they don't have sex for 2 weeks. What's going on here? Am I going crazy? Am I the only person who thinks this is not normal to get married and go on your honeymoon and not have sex for 2 weeks? Can someone please confirm in the comments below that that is not normal behavior? They get married and they sleep in separate rooms with the students? That's creepy. Again, just to be clear, we have not even got to the allegations yet. Just with the facts that we know of, it seems like something strange is going on. Now, let's get to the allegations from this week. On Wednesday, an account on Twitter named Black Insurrectionist posted a statement from an alleged victim of Tim Walz. 2 days later, this Twitter account was terminated by Twitter, and all the documents have been deleted from the internet. What is going on? Over those 2 days, this Twitter account was receiving a lot of pushback accusing him of faking the allegations. But here's my thoughts. If these allegations are fake, why not have the news media investigate them rather than just deleting everything? If they're not true, there's nothing to hide. Here are the allegations. Someone released a statement claiming that Tim Walz raped him multiple times between the ages of 14 to 18 years old. He was the student that Tim Walz took to the Indigo Girls concert. He claims that Tim Walz gave him alcohol at the concert and put his hands down his pants. While he was intoxicated, Tim Walz brought him back to his house and gave him a blowjob. As proof of this, he claims that he can describe what Tim Walz looks like naked. He explains that Tim Walz has a raised scar on his chest, a scar on his left arm that looks like a soft burn, and a Chinese symbol tattoo on his upper thigh. He claims they had 10 to 12 sexual encounters. He claims he was with Tim Walz the night he got the DUI. He explains that his parents complained to the school board during the same period that Tim Walz was under investigation and resigned. Again, these are just allegations, and we have to be cautious in case this person is making this up. But it is curious. How in the world does this person know what Tim Walz looks like naked? I can think of no scenario where a student would have seen a teacher's body that would have been appropriate. So how does he know this information? Also, I don't understand why Tim Walz is not disproving this. It would be so easy. If this is not true, then Tim Walz would not have a Chinese tattoo. Why doesn't he just show everyone that he doesn't have a tattoo? Unless he does have the tattoo, and if he does, how does a student know about it? But let's go over some things that raise questions about this person's credibility. The allegations are anonymous. We don't know who this person is. It could be anyone making this up. Now, clearly there was only one student Tim Walz took to the Indigo Girls concert, so it's clearly a specific person. But unless they come forward with their name, their statement is not very credible. No newspaper will print this story unless they can fact check with the actual witness. Also, so far, there are no photos. Remember the scandal around Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein and the underage girl. Those claims were credible because there was a photo with Prince Andrew and the girl. If this student did have 10 to 12 sexual encounters with Tim Walz, there would have been photos of them together. Where are the photos? But there are also some things that increase this person's credibility, in my mind at least. First of all, he explains that he is a straight man. It is extremely difficult for a straight man who has been molested to come forward and admit to having gay sex. I doubt someone would go through that unless something happened. Take, for instance, Justin Bieber. It is well documented that Justin Bieber spent significant time with P. Diddy growing up. P. Diddy is currently under arrest for many things, including sexually assaulting underage boys. He would drug them and rape them, allegedly. Now, we don't know if that happened to Justin Bieber, but it would certainly fit everything we know about the case. Now, just imagine how difficult it would be for Justin Bieber to admit that. Justin's a straight man with a beautiful wife who just had his first baby. It would be devastating for him to have to admit that he was raped by another man. This is a similar situation, where it is incredibly difficult for this person to come forward. Second, the timing also supports these allegations. The student's statement about the Indigo Girls concert was made before it was reported in the news that Tim Walz took a student to the concert. There is no way the student would have known about the concert unless he had gone. So for instance, no one could have read about the concert in the paper and then made a story up about it because no one knew it had happened. Third, it sounds like there are other victims. This is a common pattern with pedophiles that there are multiple victims. This person mentions at least one other victim that he knows personally, but this person has not come forward yet. I feel like we would need to hear more testimony before believing this story. The parents should also be able to corroborate this. We need to hear from other victims and other witnesses. But it sounds like these statements may be coming. On Wednesday, another student named Matthew Metro released a statement on Twitter about a sexual assault by Tim Walz. This happened in 1997 at the next high school Tim Walz went to after resigning from his previous high school. Now, just for the sake of caution, I am not going to show the video because it just came out and it has not been confirmed as legitimate. Several people have accused this video of being a fake AI-generated video. So far, it has been up for several days, and Matthew Metro has not confirmed or denied this statement. So instead of showing the clip, I will give you a brief summary. This was from a former student of Tim Walz. After class, he had a conversation with Tim Walz saying that he was having a hard time with his parents' divorce. Tim Walz told the student that he was gay, unzipped the student's pants, and started stroking the student's genitals. Tim Walz started kissing the student's neck. When the student heard someone in the hall, he ran away and never told anyone about the incident. I do want to emphasize that these allegations just came out, and we do need to get confirmation from the victim and other witnesses. But the list of victims is growing. The problem with a lot of these types of stories is they just get covered up. No one knows what happened with this Twitter account suddenly getting deleted. But it's going to be much harder now to vet these allegations. All Tim Walz has to do is to keep the story from getting out for another 30 days until the election. Tim Walz is wealthy. These victims are probably penniless. Tim Walz obviously knows who these victims are. He knows who he took to the Indigo Girls concert. All Tim Walz has to do is send in an army of lawyers to tie these people up with lawsuits for 30 days. In the case with Matthew Metro, it has been reported that he is currently living as a homeless person in New York. So if Tim Walz is trying to pressure him to remain silent, Matthew Metro doesn't have any money to fight back. Tim Walz could offer to pay the victims hush money. If a victim was offered $300,000 to stop talking about the story for 30 days, he might consider that. It would destroy the victim's credibility, and no one would ever listen to them again. But these things happen. People pay hush money. Also, we're talking about really powerful people. The FBI could try to threaten the victim's family. They could arrest the parents on a fake charge just to keep the victim tied up for 30 days. There are any number of ways that Tim Walz could threaten these victims. But as all of this information is getting covered up, here is one more piece of evidence. This is a video posted by someone named Ian Carroll. He claims to have had a 40-minute phone call with the victim who went to the Indigo Girls concert.
And today, I had a 40-minute phone call with what sounded an awful lot like a genuine whistleblower. This is the phone call. There was no weird, breaks in character. There was no weird, The vibe I can be fooled. I'm no ultimate judge of character. I'm not perfect. I'm also not some professional journalist or anything. But my judgment of what I heard and what I asked and what was said to me, it sounded like it was a real story, and the details seemed to line up not only with what else had been said, but also with what I could corroborate about where Tim Walz was at that time and what he was doing at that time, and who knows. And so basically, here's where we're at. And Whistleblower knows of several other people that experienced the same or similar types of abuse. Whistleblower says they have lots of proof. Allegedly, there is a cache of journals and letters, just documents from the time that help corroborate the story. And they're allegedly stashed where multiple of these people have access to them. And allegedly, they feel comfortable sending photos of some of those documents that won't give away their identity yet, but will at least help to corroborate the story, allegedly.
So it appears that there is more information still to come out. Here's the real question. What do you think happened? More importantly, if you had a 14-year-old son, would you leave that child in a room alone with Tim Walz? I, for one, would not. Now I want to hear from you. Why do you think Tim Walz resigned from being a high school teacher? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like these videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. If you find these videos helpful, consider signing up for a monthly membership on my website, wolvesandfinance.com. For $6 a month, your support helps me to keep making these videos. I'm Zach from Wolves and Finance. Thank you for watching.